There we go. Right. Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our platform to share all about telecoms. It's nice to see that not everyone's on their summer holiday this week, although Paul and I are just about to take ours. So my name is Sam. I'm the marketing coordinator for Breakwater. I think a few of me may have seen me pop up, but I'm hoping I might actually get to meet some more people face to face soon, having worked here for 18 months and not really being able to see any of you. I'm joined by Paul. I'm sure many of you will know Paul. He's our telecoms engineer. Actually, I recently spent some time out working with Paul, and I've never met anyone with so much knowledge in their field. So we'll try and keep this to the 45 minutes as planned. Don't forget to put all your telecoms related questions in the chat as we go, and I'll fire them straight to Paul. So we shall kick off, Paul. So the first question I have for you is about the different types of systems on offer for businesses.
Hi, well, we offer two different types of VoIP or hosted systems, and these are Microsoft Business Voice and Gamma Horizon.
Okay, and can you explain like what a VoIP system is, just for anyone who doesn't know?
A VoIP or hosted system is basically a cloud-based telephone system that doesn't need a physical piece of kit installed in the premises. It's portal-based and web-based, therefore can be accessed from any device that can get an internet connection. Administration changes are made instantly, and as an example, I actually made a change to a customer's telephone routing whilst sat on the services in the M25. So it's very, very flexible and a lot easier to work on.
Okay, and what is needed for a VoIP telephone system then?
You really need a good internet connection. That's a given. You also could do with a strong Wi-Fi coverage as well, because there is a mobile phone application which works really well, and so having a good strong Wi-Fi connection is useful because you can then move around and take your phones with you.
Okay, so if you need a good data plan, it'll work with kind of 3G, 4G, and 5G?
Yes, obviously the better the connection, the better the voice quality. It's always better to use Wi-Fi, but no, it will work on 3G, 4G, and 5G.
Okay. So if the internet drops, you have no Wi-Fi, you have no data, what would happen?
If that ever happens, we can easily divert to anywhere, basically. Because it's a cloud-based system, we can actually go onto the portal and we can divert the calls to any number anywhere in the world. So landlines, mobile phones, anything, and it can be done instantly. So if the worst happens, we can divert the calls. It's quite easy.
So even if there's no Wi-Fi, you can just send it to a different cell phone.
Yes, you can send it to the actual cell phone or to a landline phone.
Okay. So you're using obviously multiple devices. You said you could have it on your laptop or on your like a physical phone or a mobile phone. Can you can transfer between them?
Yes, yeah. It's a little function called pull call on one of the platforms, and basically, if you're talking on your desk phone, you can pull the call onto your laptop and then move through into a meeting room. You can also do it so you can pull the call onto your mobile phone, so you can actually take the call onto your mobile phone and move around a bit more freely. It's done instantly as well. The person on the other end of the phone won't actually know you've done this, so it's an actual instant transfer.
Okay, and a physical desk phone as well, I guess, a laptop to a physical desk phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted to switch that way, then it's just a press of a button.
Okay, nice and simple then. But with the mobile app, like a soft phone on your laptop or desktop, I guess you don't need a physical phone really anymore. Like we don't.
No, at Breakwater, we actually went down the road of taking away all the desk phones. So we don't actually have desk phones at all at Breakwater. We use Gamma Horizon currently for our telephone system, and we have the mobile phone apps. We also have soft phones on the laptops, and by using headsets, we're able to work anywhere. So no, you don't need a physical desk phone, although
Okay.
you can have one if you want one.
Yeah, I guess that's something a lot of people don't realize nowadays, is you don't actually need the physical phone itself, and I guess that's a cost saving thing as well.
More so a space saving thing. If on some platforms you do actually have to buy the physical hardware.
Okay.
It depends on the licenses really, but the by not having a physical desk phone, you actually save quite a lot of room on your desks, and the flexibility of moving around is huge, because if you want to go and work in another room, you just literally take your laptop and your mobile and go and work there.
Okay. But if you say I wanted like a desk phone still on a hosted system, is there any specific things you need for that, like a standard telephone socket?
Um, because this all works off your internet connection, you actually need structured cabling in place, like Cat5 or Cat6 cabling throughout the building. Most offices will have these, not so much at home. It's very rare for you to have structured cabling at home. So having a desk phone in a home office would be a little bit more tricky, but no, as long as you've got the structured cabling there, the phones as well, they need to be plugged into a network switch, which gives through power. So as long as you've got those things in place in your office, then yeah, you could have a desk phone.
Okay. And again, we've talked about kind of needing a good broadband connection as well. So how would you know if you need to upgrade? Is there a minimum speed requirement or anything like that?
That's a really open question. It really
Mhm.
depends on the amount of people you have and how much you're going to be using the phones. So
Mhm.
VoIP or hosted, that the actual call doesn't take up a lot of bandwidth at all. It's literally K per call. So it's very small amount of bandwidth that's used for the actual call itself. However, if you do have an office with 50, 60 people in there who are constantly on the phones, then
Mhm.
that's going to have a knock-on effect. So there are ways that we can test this, and we can push through different scenarios. And if you need to upgrade the broadband, then we can give you options for that as well.
Okay. If you don't have a good broadband connection, then what happens with the call? Is it just cut a bit, or is it a bit crackly, or?
If you have a poor internet connection or
Mhm.
poor Wi-Fi connection, everybody's experienced the situation where you're on a mobile phone and you go out of signal into poor signal area where it starts to break up, it goes a bit robotic. It's exactly the same on a hosted system. If you start losing your internet connection, if you start getting poor connectivity, the call will start to break down, and you'll start missing parts of the call, and your voice will go very robotic. So that's a sign that you're running out of bandwidth. You're running out of your the use on the broadband. So what you need to do is you need to either move, if you're using Wi-Fi, move to an area where the Wi-Fi is a lot stronger.
Mhm.
If you're on a mobile phone using 3G or 4G, then either stop driving and pull over, or just find somewhere where you have actually got a good internet connection.
Okay. So obviously a VoIP system is hosted over the internet, and we've talked about kind of using data and stuff. So can it be hacked? Is there like a security issue there?
Any system can be hacked, but
Mhm.
um, the ones that we supply, the Microsoft Business Voice and Gamma Horizon, they're very secure platforms. They're replicated in multiple different places. Another thing that we do put on our systems as standard is fraud protection. Currently, I set these at £50. So when a bill hits the £50 threshold, it will actually send a ticket to our service desk. This way, we get alerted straight away that there's actually been high call volumes on a certain telephone system, we can then actually access that, look at it, stop it. And if you only get hit with £50, that's a lot less than what some people can get hit on more traditional telephone systems, because once a hacker gets into a traditional telephone system, that they can rack up thousands and thousands of pounds worth of fraudulent calls overnight.
Is that £50 within a time frame? Is it like within a day or within a month, or?
It's within a day. It's a daily
Okay.
call spend limit. Because with the hosted systems, most of your calls are free. All the calls to UK numbers and UK mobiles are all included. I mean, you get 2,000 minutes per user per month to use. So that's a lot of calls, and that's spread across the whole business. So if you've got a couple of users who aren't using that, then the other people who are using it can start eating into that limit. But so to have call spend hit £50 is rare. It's very, very rare. So that's why I set it at £50.
And can clients change that £50 limit?
Oh yes, yeah. If you're
Yeah.
if you're a company who is making calls mostly abroad, then obviously you may hit that £50 limit quite regularly. So yeah, we can we can also down it as well, so we can make the limit £10 as such. So as soon as the call limit hits £10, it sends a ticket through. The reason I set it to 50 is because £50 is a workable limit, so you can make those calls to abroad. You can use them. You can call 0845 numbers, 0847 numbers. You can do all of that and still be within your £50 limit, so you're not automatically raising tickets to the service desk and having your telephone system shut down for no reason.
Okay. So when it hits the limit, does it shut down, or?
No, it doesn't.
No.
It does require a bit of physical intervention
Okay.
on that, but no, I've never seen one do it.
Okay, that's good.
But it's there just in
It's
case.
there. Yeah. So if you want it changed, then get in touch with Paul.
Yeah.
We've had a question from Andy who says, when installing a new telephony system, would you recommend installing the voice and data on the same line or having separate lines for redundancy? He's always been recommended to have separate.
We normally try to put in 2 lines if at all possible. We'll have normally a lease line, which will do your voice and data all the time, and then we'll have a backup line, normally just a standard fiber broadband line as a backup, just in case. There's not really any need to separate out voice and data on the network. Voice doesn't take up a lot of bandwidth at all, so there's no need to have a separate line dedicated just for voice. You might as well just have a nice big internet connection for voice and data, and then have a backup line there just in case that big internet connection goes down, so at least you can carry on working.
Okay, good.
Does that answer Andy's
I'm
question?
sure that does. In the meantime, let's chat about sort of the growth of the system as well. He said perfect. So in terms of a hosted system, teams, businesses often grow. So what is the scalability of a hosted system?
The great thing about a hosted system is it grows as you grow. You can start off very small with just one user on the telephone system, but that one user doesn't just have to be one person with one telephone number. We can actually have telephone numbers from all over the country, all going into auto attendance. That then it gives the illusion of a much bigger organization, but just with one single user. And then as that business grows, you can add on different people into it. It's it's very, very easy to add users into an existing hosted telephone system.
Okay, is it easier to scale up than like a traditional phone system?
Oh yes, yeah. With a traditional phone system, you would have a box hanging on a wall or racked in a comms cabinet. And if you wanted to add more extensions or if you wanted to add more people onto it, normally that would require having to add more cards to the telephone system. So you'd have to actually physically upgrade the hardware before you could even start to roll out phones to the new users. So yes, it's very easy to add people onto a hosted system. And the good thing about it is because it is all cloud based, you can add people quite instantly as well. So as soon as we've added the person, they're there, they're ready, they can start taking calls as long as they've got the uh, mobile phone application or the PC application. They can literally start working the same day, the minute the license is activated.
Okay. And what about like the reliability of the system, sort of if we, you know, we needed repairs?
Um, the reliability, any system can go down. The good thing about the ones that we supply is that they're replicated in multiple data centers across the country. So for the whole system to go down, it would take quite a lot for that to go down. However, we live in the real world. If anything did go down, we can actually divert the calls instantly. We have done in the past. You can divert through to mobiles, through to landlines, people's home phones. We can get you back up and working again very quickly. With a traditional telephone system, that would take a phone call to your line provider, who would then have to put a divert in place. And normally that would be a divert to one mobile phone or one landline, which, let's face it, that's not the best way of doing things. With a hosted system, we can put it through to multiple different numbers. We can actually even put in a message to say that you're experiencing problems in the office. Your call may take a little bit longer to be answered, and then put it through to mobiles. The flexibility is huge. So yes, it's very reliable, but if anything did go wrong, it's easy to fix.
Okay, and those fixes are all pretty instant, aren't they?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yes.
Call routing on a hosted platform is literally a click of a button.
Okay. Is that something that typically you would do or would the client do?
In some instances, we've given end user training, which will allow them to do these type of diverts themselves. However, in those sort of situations when things are a little bit stressful, we always recommend that they give Breakwater a call and let us do it, because the last thing you want to do is start trying to do a call divert and find out that you've done it wrong. All your calls are ending up somewhere that you don't know. So it's always better to get one of the engineers just to sort that out for you. Most of the time, there's already a DR plan programmed in there, so all you need to do is just click a button.
Okay, nice and simple again. So how is a VoIP system kept up to date then?
Um, on the hosted systems, they're constantly evolving and growing, and new features and services are being added all the time. And these updates are pushed out normally in the early hours of the morning, 3-4 o'clock in the morning. If you happen to be on the phone at the time that the updates are pushed out, that won't cut off your phone. That will actually wait for your phone to finish its conversation, and then the update will be applied, and it'll be there. A lot of the upgrades are actually feature based, which are license driven. So those those will be applied to the platform, and then we can actually activate them should you ever want them.
Okay, and I guess it's a lot easier to keep it up to date than it would be like a traditional telephone system.
Yes, yeah. A traditional telephone system would normally involve having an engineer come on site with a laptop linked to the telephone system and then push in the new firmware, the new software into it, which actually causes downtime because the system will then need to reboot, and all the time that he's there, then the phones won't be working. So yeah, having the updates automatically applied and applied in the early hours of the morning is really good because it all happens whilst you're not in the office, whilst you're not using the phones.
Okay, so if things kind of did go wrong, what disaster recovery options are there with a hosted system?
In the past, when we've had clients using traditional telephone systems, we've actually had a hosted system there in the background as a DR plan. So if their traditional system went down, they would divert their calls over to the hosted system. When COVID happened, one customer in particular found that they had to use this disaster recovery option. So they diverted all of their calls from their traditional system to the hosted system. And we all thought right at the start that COVID was only going to be a couple of weeks, couple of months, didn't we? Here we are, it's still going on. That they decided that they weren't going to ever switch back to the traditional telephone system, so they actually pushed all of their calls now through the hosted system. And if the hosted system ever goes down completely, then we spoke about this before. There are ways we can actually push the calls through to landlines and mobile phones. There is a option within each user's setup, which is an unreachable option, which that basically means if a call can't be given to the user's mobile phone application, desk phone, or PC application, it will actually go through to whatever number they put in there. And most people in that instance will put their mobile phone number in there. So as long as they've got mobile phone coverage, then the calls will actually bounce onto their mobile phone, and that's instant. That'll happen without them even knowing.
Great. Okay. Just moving on, I think like reporting is something that's really useful to a lot of businesses. So let's chat about the specific VoIP options for a minute. So the Gamma system, there's like a huge platform available to manage. I think, we've spoken before about how useful that platform is, and you've said, click of a button and instant. So what kind of reporting is available on the Gamma system?
Gamma Horizon uses Akixi as one of its reporting platforms. They are working and just released another type of reporting platform as well. But majority we'll actually use Akixi. Breakwater, we use Akixi to monitor our calls and run reports. And the good thing is with the reporting software is it's a bolt-on license per user. So you actually choose what users you want to run reports on. So you're not paying unnecessary license costs for things like boardroom phones, that maybe the directors don't want to be monitored, don't need to have their calls monitored. But if you've got a call center, like the guys downstairs on our service desk, they're monitored. The calls are monitored to make sure that we're not missing calls, to make sure the calls are answered in a good time, and make sure that if any calls are missed, if anything like that actually happens, then we do get a list of those numbers, and we can actually make sure that those people have actually been talked to. We can actually make sure that we check back to make sure that they've actually phoned back through, or we've actually phoned them. So the reporting is incredibly powerful, and it's something that our service desk particularly uses daily. We have hourly reports coming out to the service desk managers to make sure that our level of service is always where it should be.
Are
And
those? Oh, sorry, carry on.
and it's also good to monitor peaks and troughs in call traffic, so you can see when you actually need staff in and when you can let staff go to lunch, and when you know, days when it's like really busy and days when it's a little bit quieter. You'll see that, and before you've got reporting, it's always a little bit of guesswork, but when you can actually see the graphs and you can see the peaks and troughs in the call traffic, that data doesn't lie. That is true data that's shown you how the calls are coming in, and you look at that over a couple of weeks, you'll know what days are your busy days, what days are your quiet days, and what days you need more staff.
Okay, and those reports you mentioned, like you can set up so custom reports that all send automatically? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We also, because we've got quite a few customers out there who use the hosted systems, when we set this up for them, we actually give them the ability to create their own reports, and you can make a report to report on pretty much anything you want it to do. There's 3 different levels to the reporting software, 3 different license levels, starting from basic license to advanced statistics. It's all about how deeply you want to look into the system usage. But even the basic reporting will give you call traffic throughout the day, so you can see the peaks and troughs, and you can manage your staff accordingly to that. As the more advanced stuff, you can actually go down into how long a person's been on calls, the sort of calls they were taking. It gets very in depth. So it's very personal. So it's whatever they want, we can do. It's a license, so it's just a case of adding it.
Is it a cost license? Like there's 3 different
It
levels?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we've also mentioned Microsoft Business Voice as well. So in terms of a comparison, how was the reporting for that?
Currently, there isn't a straightforward reporting platform that's linked directly into Business Voice or Teams. But saying that, Teams is growing, and it's growing very quickly. So I don't think it'll be long before there is a full reporting package available. But currently, unfortunately, there isn't one that just bolts straight in like the Kixie does for Gamma Horizon. But Teams is evolving very, very quickly, and I think COVID's had a big influence on that, because a lot of people have switched across to using things like Horizon, like Teams, and in order to run their businesses. So yeah, Teams is getting there. It's on the cusp, and I should imagine there will be a reporting platform very soon for that.
Okay, so let's chat a little bit more about Microsoft Business Voice then, because some people might not actually know it exists even. So can you kind of explain what it is?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are used to Teams. People use Teams a lot to chat to each other. We're using Teams now for a video call. So you get used to how Teams does chat, does the video calls. You've got your file sharing. It's incredibly powerful. It's a massive application, and it's to bring in the voice side of it. It just makes sense. It just makes one application, one program for everything that you need to run your business. We still use Gamma though. The numbers will go to Gamma, and then from Gamma we'll then route your calls in directly into Teams using a program called Direct Routing. Basically, then we can move your numbers into Gamma, and then point them straight into Teams. You still get the reliability of the multiple data centers that Gamma has, so your calls will be safe, and then we'll just route them directly into Teams. There is an upgrade you need to do to allow you to have all the features within Teams. I'm sure the account manager will be able to talk about that path, but you can actually then have just one app, and as most people who use Teams will know, you've got the mobile phone app as well. You don't need anything else. You've literally got everything all under one roof. And I know East Anglian Air Ambulance uses Teams for everything, and I noticed that Jamie was on the call. So yeah, I know that Teams is working well for them, and it is something that we at Breakwater will switch across to as well. We just rely far too heavily on the reporting side of things at the moment, so we will be moving across to Teams ourselves.
Okay, I was going to ask you have a preference between Horizon and Business Voice, but is it Business Voice just because of the simplicity of having it in one app?
I like the simplicity of having everything in one app. I do like Teams for that. It does everything. I do like Horizon though. Horizon has been around for a long time, which means that there's a lot more flexibility, a lot more options within Horizon for your telephone system. So we can set up a lot of different routing plans using Horizon, which Teams will have eventually. It's constantly evolving. There's new bits being added in all the time. So excuse me, you will be able to have all of these features in Teams very shortly. But yeah, Horizon currently is my preferred one for anything complicated, because I can actually make Horizon do pretty much anything you want it to do.
Okay. Is there like an additional cost for Microsoft Business Voice?
It depending on what license you have, there could well be. So it's obviously you need to check what licenses you've got to make sure that you've got it there.
Okay, and with both systems, is it like a charge per call on Business Voice or Horizon, or?
No, you get the 2,000 minutes per user per month, and that's to any UK landline or UK mobile. And that's spanned across all the users on that system. So if you've got one user who, say, only uses 10 minutes, and then one person who uses 2,010 minutes, it's not going to just suddenly cut that user off at the 2,000 minutes and start charging you. It's spanned across all of the users. We don't actually see anyone go over this. We haven't actually been notified. It's on a fair usage policy. If Gamma notices that a certain customer or a certain company does go over those 2,000 minutes regularly, then they will have a word with us, and then in turn we can talk to you as a customer and see if there's anything we can do to help that.
So if, like, say for example, someone did somehow manage to go, like everyone in the business went over their 2,000 minutes, would there then be the additional cost?
There would be. However, I've installed this into some very busy businesses.
Very unlikely.
I've never seen it happen.
Okay.
But it's not to say it won't. So it would have to be a conversation we'd have to have at the time. But I haven't particularly seen it happen, and I've put this into some very, very busy businesses. So I think it's pretty much all inclusive.
Okay, that's good then. So let's say that, someone does have a traditional telephone system at the moment. They're not really getting on with it. As you say, they're obviously missing out on a lot of features and instant upgrades and all the reporting and stuff. How easy would it be to switch to a hosted system?
This is quite straightforward. As long as you've got all the things in place that we spoke about before, like a good broadband connection, a strong Wi-Fi, structured cabling throughout the business, then we can set you up with a hosted telephone system on temporary numbers pretty quickly. Then what you can do is you can divert all your calls from your traditional system across to the hosted system, which is this is how I've always done it in the past. So we keep the two systems working side by side, and then basically then you just move your telephone numbers permanently onto the hosted platform. Once you're happy with how the hosted platform is working, whilst you've got the two systems working side by side, we can make tweaks and changes to the hosted platform to make sure it mimics exactly how you want it to work. And then once you're happy, we just port the numbers straight onto the hosted system, and then the old telephone system, telephone lines can all be removed. They'd no longer be used.
Okay, and if you kind of mentioned porting, if someone does switch, they can keep their existing telephone number?
Yes, yeah. Porting is a bit of a dark art. It's very complex because you've got a lot of different suppliers all in the mix, and it's not just the case of moving the numbers from BT onto Gamma. Sometimes there's several other people involved. Sometimes addresses don't quite match up with databases and stuff like that. But that's something that I deal with. If you ever contacted me, but the first thing I would need from you guys would be a copy of your telephone bill. It's not so I can see who you've been calling or anything like that. I just basically need to see where everything's registered, and then I've got through our admin account with Gamma, I've got a breakout to the back end of BT OpenReach, so I can actually trace installations with numbers, make sure the postcodes all match, and then as long as everything all happens, then there's a legal document that needs to be signed by the customer. Once that's signed, then I can basically just port your numbers straight over into Gamma. Once that's ported, the porting takes anywhere between 2 minutes to 4 hours on the day of the port. But once they're in Horizon or on the hosted platform, we've got full reign of all of those numbers, so we can actually point them to anywhere you want them to be going and push them straight into the hosted platform and have the telephone system take control of it.
Okay, so I feel like we've covered quite a lot in this short time. So I'm going to ask you one final question, but if anyone does have any questions, then please do pop them in the chat while we talk about this. So I guess the final question I have is, will VoIP take over traditional systems? Like, will traditional systems exist in the future?
I think that VoIP and hosted systems will always take over from the traditional systems. It's the way that everything is moving. ISDN lines, which were a staple part of business telephone systems for years and years, they're not actually going to be installed anymore in 2023, I think it is, when they're going to stop the actual installation of ISDN lines. Excuse me. In 2025, they're actually going to be switching off ISDN. So anyone who isn't using any type of VoIP telephony before 2025, which isn't that long away, will be pushed into using some sort of VoIP or hosted system. There are ways around it if you've already put a lot of money into a traditional telephone system in-house. Then there are ways that we can get what is known as SIP trunks, which is telephone lines, but they're internet-based telephone lines. They will replace your ISDN, and that means that you can continue using the traditional telephone system. It's always better though to really think about the bigger picture and the more flexibility that you get from having the hosted system, and the way that people can work from anywhere at any time. COVID is the biggest driver for this. It's when everyone had to go home and work from home, if you had a hosted system, it was literally a case of picking up your laptop and going home.
Yeah, I think it's been a big driver as well. I mean, I remember, at the start of the whole thing, there were people who had closed their offices, but obviously they had one person going in because they didn't have a telephone system at home. So now I guess is the time to make that move. The sooner you do it, the better. But if it becomes like the only real option, do you think it will become more expensive or?
No, there's hundreds of different hosted systems on the market. Loads and loads of different suppliers given hosted systems, and the trouble is anyone can create a hosted telephone system. It's the reliability that you need to look at. There's people out there who are selling hosted telephone systems for £2 to £3 per license. You got to ask yourself is why is it so cheap? Why is there? Why is it that much money? Because probably it's just run off a PC sat in a comms room somewhere. It's cheap for a reason. Horizon and Teams and Gamma, they've been through all of this. They've worked on their pricing structure is competitive. The reliability is good. The fact that it's replicated through several different data centers means that it's strong. It's there. You get your calls included. There may be some change in cost. I don't think it'll get any more expensive. I think if anything, costs may come down slightly, but it's all speculation. There's a lot of demand for hosted systems at the moment,
particularly with what we've been through and people wanting to work from home and stuff like that. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay, so I think that's kind of all we have time for now. We've pretty much wrapped up. But obviously, if you have further questions, then fire them to Paul or myself. A recording of this video will be sent out, be shared on our YouTube and social media and website, etc., as well as a little feedback survey. So if you do have a couple of spare minutes, then I'm sure me and Paul would really appreciate that. We're currently looking at bringing back an in-person platform to share, hopefully around October time, which will be really exciting to actually get to see some people. But do actually save the date of Thursday, the 9th of December, because that's when our cybersecurity conference is going to be making an in-person comeback. So that's really exciting. We'll send out some more details of that in the coming weeks. But thank you, Paul. And thank you for everyone for coming, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.